Something feels off, but it's almost invisible. She's laughing, she's kind, she's composed. But behind that perfect calm, something trembles, a smile too still, a gaze that lingers 1 second too long. That's where it begins, the hidden rage behind the smile. Not the kind that throws plates or slams doors, but the kind that endures, quietly. The kind that doesn't explode, it erodes. Society doesn't give women permission to rage. From childhood, they're taught that anger is ugly, that emotion is something to fold neatly into politeness. So they learn the art of smiling through violation, of laughing through disappointment, of turning fire into composure, because the world punishes flame but rewards grace. Psychologists call it emotional suppression, a defense mechanism so refined it becomes an identity. Every unspoken no, every swallowed truth doesn't vanish, it sinks. And when enough truth sinks, it becomes pressure. Pressure beneath the porcelain of calm. A pressure so quiet you only feel it in hindsight, in the sudden withdrawal, the polite detachment, the smile that doesn't reach the eyes anymore. Here's the paradox. She seems calm, but calm isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just containment. The body stores what the voice can't express. So her tone softens while her muscles tighten. Her posture relaxes, but her eyes go glassy. And when you ask, "Are you okay?" she smiles again. Of course. But that "of course" is a shield. It's what psychologists call fawning, a trauma response where harmony becomes survival, where pleasing others replaces protecting self. It's the learned reflex of those who discovered that safety lies not in honesty, but in compliance. There's a story behind every polite smile. It's written in the pauses between words, in the tension around the jaw, in the exhaustion behind the eyes. You might think she's fine, but that's only because she's mastered the performance. She learned that the world doesn't listen to tears, so she replaced them with a smile. She learned that confrontation brings chaos, so she learned the elegance of subtle withdrawal. She learned that rage scares people away, so she buried it beneath softness, until the softness became her prison. Rule card. A smile can be the most elegant disguise for pain. And here's the tragedy. The longer she wears that disguise, the more she forgets where her true face ends and the mask begins. Because when rage has no voice, it doesn't die. It waits. It watches. And one day, it speaks, without raising its volume. In the next chapter, we'll step back in time to see how that rage was taught to hide and what happens when silence becomes a woman's inheritance. Every quiet storm has an origin. It doesn't start with anger. It starts with fear. Not fear of pain, but fear of disapproval. From the beginning, she was taught that to be loved, she must be pleasant, soft voice, calm tone, always agreeable. Because a good girl doesn't fight, a good woman doesn't make people uncomfortable. So she learned early, conflict means danger, and peace, even false peace, means safety. The training begins in childhood. When she cried, she was told to smile. When she was hurt, she was told to forgive. When she disagreed, she was told she was too emotional. She didn't stop feeling, she just stopped showing it. The mind adapts like water finding cracks. And so she built her own hidden chambers, places where anger could live quietly, unseen, unacknowledged, but alive. By the time she became an adult, she wasn't suppressing rage consciously. It had become her second language, spoken through silence, patience, and restraint. Psychologists call this the fawn response, a trauma pattern where the body confuses appeasement with safety. When the nervous system learns that being nice is the only way to avoid emotional abandonment, it rewires itself to equate authenticity with risk. She stops saying no, she stops asking for what she needs. She smiles even when her soul is screaming. And the world rewards her for it. Because polite people are easy to love, until they aren't. Imagine her at work. Her boss gives her double the workload because you're just so reliable. She accepts it and smiles. Her partner forgets plans. It's okay, you're busy. Her friends vent endlessly. She listens. Each act of tolerance seems virtuous, but beneath every "it's fine" is a tiny fracture, and fractures don't heal when ignored. They multiply, until one day she doesn't recognize herself. She's become everyone's calm in their storm, but no one's safe place to collapse. The psychology of suppression is slow corrosion. It's not rage buried, it's identity dissolved, because you can't keep pretending forever without forgetting the original script. That's why suppressed anger doesn't vanish. It goes subterranean. It becomes cynicism, exhaustion, emotional numbness. And that numbness? That's the smoke before eruption. You see, when you silence the voice of anger, you also silence the voice of self-respect. Because anger, real, honest anger, is not chaos. It's the body's way of saying, something isn't right. When that message is ignored for too long, it doesn't disappear. It transforms. It becomes resentment, elegant, quiet, and deadly. Rule card. The cost of eternal composure is invisible resentment. Now the volcano is forming. Not violent yet, just trembling beneath the surface. She still smiles, still nods, still comforts others. But deep down, a truth begins to whisper. I'm tired of being calm. And that whisper will grow. Because what she calls patience isn't peace anymore. It's pressure. In the next chapter, we'll descend deeper into the echo chamber of niceness, where the world rewards her silence and her identity begins to fade. It's quiet here, almost peaceful. Everyone likes her, no one ever complains about her, but that's the problem. Because when the world only praises your calm, it never sees your suffering. She's learned to make others comfortable, even at the cost of herself. And the world rewards her for it. Her politeness earns approval. Her composure earns trust. Her silence earns peace. At least on the surface. Underneath, she's slowly disappearing. This is the echo chamber of niceness, a psychological prison disguised as grace. Every time she swallows her anger, the echo tells her, "Good job. You're easy to love." Every time she says it's fine when it's not, the echo whispers, "You're mature. You're better than that." Every time she avoids conflict, the echo hums, "You're safe now." But what she doesn't realize is that these echoes don't protect her, they erase her. Because what's left of a person when every no has been replaced by a smile? Psychologists call this self-abandonment, a behavioral pattern where your boundaries collapse under the weight of your need to be accepted. You become the diplomat of every emotional battlefield, the fixer, the listener, the peacekeeper. And people start to depend on that version of you, the one who never cracks. But peace that depends on silence isn't peace, it's performance. Picture this, she's at dinner with friends. Someone makes a cruel joke about her. She laughs it off. "I'm not sensitive." They keep laughing, she smiles too, but the laugh catches in her throat. On the drive home, her mind replays it. The joke, the laughter, the hollow feeling. She doesn't confront anyone, but her chest tightens, her hands tremble, and a quiet rage hums beneath her ribs. That's the thing about suppressed anger. It doesn't die. It waits. The echo chamber works like this. The nicer she becomes, the more people expect her to stay that way. Her boundaries shrink. Her voice softens. Her truth vanishes. And when she finally tries to express herself, to say, "That hurt me," or "I need space," they say, "You've changed." No, she hasn't changed. She's just stopped pretending. Rule card. The world loves the calm you until the calm stops serving them. And that's the cruel irony. She's trapped in an identity built on emotional servitude, too kind to confront, too scared to withdraw, too exhausted to keep performing. The echo chamber applauds her composure and while quietly starving her authenticity. Until one day, the applause doesn't sound like praise anymore. It sounds like a cage closing. In the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when that quiet rage finds its voice. Not through shouting, but through silence. The art of silent punishment. It begins softly, like everything she does. No anger, no confrontation, just space. A message left unread, a conversation that dies mid-sentence, a subtle withdrawal of warmth, so quiet you almost blame yourself for feeling it. That's her version of rage. When you silence a person for years, they don't explode. They fade away strategically. The covert expression of anger becomes absence. She doesn't raise her voice. She removes her presence. She doesn't fight. She starves you of her energy. And it works. Because silence, when deliberate, can feel like suffocation. Psychologists call this passive aggression, but that term feels too small. What she's doing isn't childish. It's survival turned into art. After years of being told that anger makes her crazy, she found a way to punish without being called emotional. A way to reclaim control without ever breaking her calm image. You won't see flames. You'll just feel cold. Picture this. You notice she's quieter than usual. You ask, "Is something wrong?" She smiles faintly. "No, I'm fine." But the warmth in her eyes is gone. You talk. She listens. You joke. She doesn't laugh. And suddenly you realize you're performing for silence. That's the genius of it. Her silence forces you to fill the space she left. To apologize, to guess, to chase. Because silence isn't emptiness. It's psychological gravity. The more you resist it, the deeper it pulls you in. But here's the hidden truth. She's not doing this to be cruel. She's doing it because it's the only form of power she's allowed to have. When her voice was dismissed, she learned to weaponize quiet. When her feelings were minimized, she learned to express them through withdrawal. When her honesty was punished, she learned to communicate through absence. And now, she doesn't need to shout to make you hurt. She just needs to stop trying. Rule card. When expression is punished, silence becomes a weapon. Her calm is no longer a virtue. It's vengeance. But it's also a curse. Because every act of silent punishment is also self-punishment. She isolates you, but she isolates herself too. She withholds affection, but she withers with it. In trying to make you feel her pain, she deepens her own loneliness. That's the paradox of control. You can't heal while holding power through distance. You can't be loved and guarded at the same time. In the next chapter, we'll dive into that paradox, why the illusion of control feels safer than intimacy, and how the covert rage she once repressed becomes the very wall that keeps her unloved. She looks peaceful, measured, unbothered. But what you're really seeing is control in disguise. That calm isn't serenity. It's a shield, carefully built, brick by brick, over years of emotional training. Because if she can control her reactions, she believes she can control the pain. That's the quiet lie of self-restraint, the belief that composure equals safety. If she doesn't cry, she can't be hurt. If she doesn't argue, she can't be abandoned. If she doesn't need too much, she can't be rejected. So she builds her identity around being the calm one, the rational one, the emotionally stable one. But inside, she's on fire. Control disguised as calm is one of the most deceptive psychological masks, because it looks like maturity. It looks like peace. But it's actually fear dressed as grace. She's not calm because she's at peace. She's calm so she won't lose control. That's not serenity. It's containment. And containment, when held too long, always leaks. Picture this. She's in a relationship. Her partner says something cutting, subtle, maybe careless. She feels it sting, but smiles anyway. It's fine. She changes the subject. He relaxes, thinking everything's okay. But later that night, she lies awake, heart racing, mind replaying every word, her body trapped between the calm she shows and the chaos she hides. This is how quiet control works. The emotion doesn't vanish. It just migrates inward. Until her thoughts become a war zone no one else can hear. Psychologists call this emotional suppression, and it's linked to anxiety, depression, and chronic stress. Because when you deny emotion for too long, your body starts to speak it instead. Tension in the shoulders, a heavy chest, a stomach that twists before every conversation. Her calm becomes the source of her suffering. But here's the deeper tragedy. That control isn't just about avoiding pain. It's also about avoiding love. Because love, real love, requires surrender, vulnerability, the willingness to be seen. And when she's built her life on never being seen fully, intimacy feels like danger. She doesn't want to be close. She wants to be safe. And safety, to her, means control. Rule card. Her calm isn't peace, it's protection. This is why she often confuses control with confidence. Why she appears powerful but feels hollow. Because true strength isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to stand inside it without breaking. But she's spent so long surviving, she's forgotten how to feel without analyzing. So every touch, every compliment, every moment of closeness becomes another risk assessment. She doesn't trust love, she monitors it. In the next chapter, we'll step into the breaking point, where her calm finally fractures, and the rage she's hidden for years begins to show through the cracks. The eruption. It doesn't happen loudly. There's no screaming, no chaos, just a small moment, a look, a comment, a sigh, and something inside her snaps, not in anger, in exhaustion. The calm she's carried like armor finally cracks, and through that fracture, the truth escapes. You see, eruptions aren't always violent. Sometimes they're heartbreakingly quiet. A single tear in a conversation that was supposed to be fine. A word that slips out, too sharp, too real, after months of restraint. A silence that feels heavier than any scream could ever be. That's what happens when years of swallowed pain finally overflow. Because no matter how tightly you lock your emotions away, they always find a way to surface. Psychologists call this emotional flooding, when the body's nervous system becomes overwhelmed after prolonged suppression. It's not a choice, it's a physiological rebellion. For her, it's the body saying what her voice couldn't. Her heart races, her chest tightens. Her mind loops, not on logic but memory, all the little moments she ignored, all the apologies she gave too easily, all the nights she convinced herself she was fine. It's all back now, and it's not asking permission to leave. Picture this. He asks, "What's wrong?" She says, "Nothing." He insists, "Come on, talk to me." She looks at him, and something in her breaks. Tears fall, but they're not soft. They're jagged, full of rage disguised as sorrow. "I can't keep doing this," she whispers. And for the first time, she means it. That's the eruption. Not a storm destroying everything in sight, but a flood reclaiming what's been denied. But here's the paradox. When a woman like this finally breaks, people around her often don't believe it, because she's trained everyone, and including herself, to see her as the calm one, the grounded one, the one who never loses control. So when she finally does, they don't see release. They see instability. And that disbelief only deepens her pain. Rule card. When calm collapses, the world mistakes healing for madness. But there's something sacred about this kind of breaking. It's not destruction, it's rebirth. Because in that eruption, she's no longer managing other people's comfort. She's finally confronting her own. Every repressed emotion that once whispered, "I don't matter," is now screaming, "I'm still here." This is what liberation looks like in its ugliest form. Messy, raw, unfiltered. It's not the calm before the storm. It's the storm that finally clears the sky. In the next chapter, we'll explore what comes after the eruption, the silence that follows, and how that silence can either heal or harden her forever. The aftermath. Silence. Not the kind that feels peaceful, the kind that feels haunted. After the eruption, everything is still, but nothing feels the same. The air is heavy. The messages stop. The mirror looks back at her with quiet judgment. This is where the real war begins. Because the external chaos is over, but the internal one is just beginning. When the calm woman finally breaks, she isn't met with comfort. She's met with consequences. People pull away. Some pity her. Some call her dramatic. And she starts to believe them. Her old defense mechanisms whisper, "See? This is why you shouldn't have spoken. And just like that, the cycle tries to restart. Repression reborn through regret. But now, she knows too much to go back. This is what psychologists call post-collapse awareness, the painful clarity that comes after emotional release. It's when she begins to see the architecture of her own patterns, how every apology was really fear, how every "I'm fine" was really "please don't leave," how every act of control was really an attempt not to disappear. It's brutal insight, the kind that makes you see the version of yourself you've spent years avoiding. Picture this. She's sitting alone in her car, no music, no noise, just reflection. She scrolls through old messages, the ones she used to reread for comfort. Now they feel like fiction. Every "don't worry, it's okay" sounds like a ghost. Her voice trembles, not from sadness but from realization. She whispers, "I did this to myself." Not in self-blame, but in self-awareness, because she finally sees it. The quiet pattern that ruled her life, the worship of control, the addiction to calm, the fear of being too much. Rule card. You can't heal what you keep managing. In the aftermath, she stands at a crossroads. One path leads back to the old her, the calm mask, the polite silence, the emotional numbness. Safe, predictable, empty. The other path? Terrifying. It means feeling again. It means letting her voice be heard even if it shakes. It means accepting that peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of truth. This is the stage where most people retreat. Because healing doesn't feel like progress. It feels like loss. Loss of control, loss of image, loss of the illusion that composure was strength. But if she can endure the discomfort, if she can sit in that silence without rebuilding the walls, something new begins to form. Not a mask, a self. In the final chapter, we'll explore that rebirth. How a woman once defined by control can rediscover power and vulnerability. The rebirth. It starts quietly, like all things real do. No grand speeches. No dramatic turning point. Just a breath, deeper than the last. A realization. I don't have to hold everything anymore. That's how healing begins. Not with noise, but with release. After years of control, her hands finally unclench. She stops managing the world around her and starts listening to the world within her. The silence that once terrified her now feels sacred. Because for the first time, it's not empty. It's honest. She's no longer the calm woman holding back a storm. She's the storm learning how to become the sky. This is what psychologists call emotional integration. When we stop dividing ourselves into acceptable and unacceptable parts. When rage and tenderness, control and surrender can coexist without shame. She begins to understand that her anger was never the enemy. It was a boundary she wasn't allowed to voice. Her tears weren't weakness. They were the body's truth trying to escape confinement. And love. Love was never supposed to mean silence. Picture this. She's sitting across from someone new, not rushing, not performing calm, just present. He asks her a question, one that would have once made her shrink. She pauses, smiles faintly, and says, "That hurt me." No explosion, no collapse, just truth. That's power, not the kind that dominates, the kind that exists. Rule card. Real strength isn't control, it's authenticity without apology. Her smile now means something different. It's no longer armor, it's invitation. Because the woman who once hid behind composure has learned that vulnerability isn't exposure. It's connection. And connection, when honest, is stronger than control will ever be. The rebirth of a covertly broken woman isn't about becoming fearless. It's about finally being free to feel. No more pretending to be unbothered. No more managing other people's comfort. No more calling self-abandonment maturity. She's done performing peace. Now she is peace, the kind that roars quietly, the kind that holds its own gaze. The rage behind her smile is gone now. Not because she buried it, but because she finally understood it. And that's the secret no one tells you. When a woman truly heals, she doesn't become softer or colder. She becomes whole. Final rule card. When she stops pretending to be calm, she becomes unstoppable.